All right, so welcome back for our second Chabura on Hanukah. I guess quick update. I think we'll take a break for the next 2 weeks. Our kids are on winter break, and it'll be hard to sort of get things prepared and presented and all that. So we'll come back together the first week of January.
Sounds good.
Perfect. So I wanted to cover two things. One is Asara, since that's coming up next week. And then, another thought on Hanukkah, since today's the seventh day, we have another day that wanted to sort of get one in. And then lastly, and hopefully we'll have time for it, is a thought coming from the Beis Halevi on this week's Parsha, on Parshas Miketz, that really, I think, ties in nicely with what we'll see about Hanukkah. So let's get right into it. So Asara B'Teves. So if we start by looking at Shulchan Aruch in Tuf Kuf Mem Tes, so that siman is about Lisanos Daled Ta'anisim. So it's about the four fasts that we have, and we'll see what those are. So the Mechaber, the Shulchan Aruch says Chayavim Lisanos B'Tisha B'Av Shiva Asar B'Tamuz. Begimel B'Tishrei, or Tzom Gedalia, Ubasara B'Teves, Mipnei Dvarim Haraim She'iru Bahem. So we have these four fasts that we fast on because of the bad things that happened on those days. So the Mishnah Berurah gives us a bit of an insight. What are we talking about, and why do we have them? So Chayavim Lisano. So the Mishnah Berurah says V'hu Medivrei Hanavim. So this is all rabbinic, or really from all the way back, not even rabbinic really, it's going all the way back to the Navi, right? The Navi in Zechariah says, Tzom HaRavi, and this is talking about the months, so the fourth month, Tzom HaChamishi, Tzom HaShavi, V'Tzom HaAsiri. V'Amru Chazal, Tzom HaRavi, Ze Yud Zayim B'Tamuz, Shehu B'Chodesh Ravi, right? So Yud Zayim B'Tamuz is the fourth month. Lemidin HaChadashim, V'Tzom HaChamishi, Ze Tisha B'Av, Shehu B'Chodesh HaChamishi, V'Tzom HaShvi is at Tzom Gedalia, Shehu B'Chodesh HaShvi, V'Tzom HaSiri is at Asara B'Teves, Shehu B'Chodesh HaSiri. Okay, so those are the four that are actually coming all the way back from the times of Zechariah. So V'chol Elu Hayamim, Ko Yisrael Mizarim Bahem Mipnei Hatzaros She'iru Bahem. And now the Mishnah Berurah is going to tell us a little bit about why we're fasting. So we know that there were bad things that happened in each one of those days. So why do we fast? So kedei le'orer halavavos lepakech al darchei tshuva. So really the idea is that we're supposed to fast, but that's just supposed to wake us up so that we can think about ways of doing tshuva. V'yezen zichron l'maaseu haraim u'maase avosenu shahaya k'maasenu ata. So we should be thinking about what sort of caused this, the bad deeds that our bad deeds, the bad deeds of our fathers as well. Which is what caused the tsaros that we have. We should think about these things, and when we do that and we're fasting, that should help sort of swing us back onto sort of the right path. So on these days, we should be really sort of paying attention and thinking about what all this is really about and why we're here and why we're doing this. Well, the pashpesh b'ma'asav, and really take to heart, really examine our deeds. V'lashuv bahen, and to do tshuva. Ki eina ikar hatanis k'mar shekasav ba'anshe ninveh. Because the ikar is not the fast itself, as we learn from the people of Nineveh, right, in the times of Yonah the Navi. Vayar Hashem es ma'asehem. It says that Hashem saw their deeds, and I think this is after the fact, after they had done tshuva. Amr Chazal es sakam v'estanisam lo ne'amar. It doesn't say that Hashem saw that they fasted and that they wore sackcloth. Ella es ma'asehem. The deeds that they did after they did tshuva is what Hashem saw. Ve'natanis ela hachana l'tshuva l'chein osam anashim shekeshehem misanim holchin. Okay, let me pause there. And therefore, really, the fast is really just a preparation for doing tshuva, right? So now the Mishnah Berurah is going to give us a little bit of musar. So he says, "Lached osam hanashim shekshem misanim holchim betiyul." Those who say, you know what, I'll fast, but you know what, it's a day off from work or it's a day off from school, so we're going to go take a trip or something like that. But betelim and other sort of any kind of nonsense that you might do in those days, you're taking, you're sort of holding on to what's sort of the not the ikr, not the important part, but just what's sort of not important, which is the tiniest itself, and you're not really focusing on what is important. However, you can't do the opposite. You can't just say, you know what, I'm going to do tshuva. I don't even need to fast. I'm set. I'm just going to change my ways. No, so as you said, it's a day for fasting, but it's a day for fasting that leads us to tshuva. Okay, I thought that was important just because it's always interesting when the Mishnah Berurah gives us a little bit of musar and doesn't just sort of say, hey, this is the psak halacha, this is what we have to do. But now I want to look into what is unique about Asara b'Teves, and it's very interesting. If we see this, one of the earlier sources we have is the Abu Darham. The Abu Darham, I believe, is a late Rishon. He was Sephardi. He was literally from Spain, and he is quoted by the Beis Yosef and others when we talk about Asara b'Teves. So in his Seder Tfilas Ta'anios, this is part of his Sefer. And the Sefer is called the Abu Darham. That was his last name. So he says, "V'chiluk yesh beinehem." There's a difference between these four fasts we have. Generally speaking, we would say that if a fast falls out on Shabbos, it is nidch, it's pushed off until Sunday. Chutz miyud b'teves, except for Asar b'teves. She'eino chal le'olam b'Shabbos. It never falls out. The way our calendar is set up, right? Asar b'teves cannot fall out on Shabbos. Aval hu chal lefamim b'yom hashishi, but like this year, it can fall out on Friday. Misamim bo b'yom, and we do fast on Friday. Afilu haya cha b'Shabbos lo hayu yichom l'choso liyom acher. And he says, which seems to be a big chiddush, even if Asar b'Teves fell out on Shabbos, we would fast on Shabbos. It can't because our calendar is set that way, but if it could, we would fast. Why? So he's quoting a pasuk from Yechezkel, and I listed it down here. So in the words of Yechezkel, it says, "Vayhi devar Hashem elai b'shana hatshis b'chodesh ha'asiri b'asar lachodesh lemor." Right. So Yechezkel is saying, "I received this nevuah on Asar b'Teves, literally on the 10th of Teves. Ben Adam ksav lecha es shem hayom es etzem hayom hazeh." So what happened on this day, on Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh? Samach Melech Bavel El Yerushalayim Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh. This is the day this is really the start of all the problems that we have that lead to, right, Yud Zayim Tammuz and Tisha B'Av, when, the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. So the process starts on Asar b'Teves, and in the words of Yechezkel Hanavi, it's actually started literally on Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh. So because it says that, because we have this pasuk from Yechezkel, we know that the day itself has to be the fast day, and you can't push it off. And this is like, and the Abu Darham says, "Kamo b'yom kippurim b'sharat somos einam chalim lo'lem b'yom hashishi." But so this is like Yom Kippurim, that we would fast on Shabbos. But the other fast days, so we're sort of shifting back. The other fast days don't fall out on Friday. They can fall out on Shabbos, like we know Tisha B'Av can fall out on Shabbos. And then it's nidche to Sunday. Now, what about the Tanis Esther that could fall out on Shabbos? There we put back, right, all the way to Thursday. We can't push it off till Sunday because that's Shalachar Shabbos Shehu Yom Purim. Right, we sort of separate it out, and we Purim on Sunday. We pull back Tanis Esther to Thursday. So why wouldn't we fast on Tanis Esther on Friday? v'lo nechon lasos bo be'erev Shabbos. We don't want to have a much longer set of davening, both at Shacharis and Mincha, because shelo yuchlu litroach lahachin l'Shabbos. That sort of interferes with our ability to get ready for Shabbos. So that time at Sasi b'Shuvas agaonim sharmet somos k'shechalim b'Shabbos oshel b'Tishabav dochin osam la'achar Shabbos. So the unique thing of Asara b'Tevis is we will fast on it on Friday, which we don't for anything else, and we will fast on it on Shabbos, at least according to the Budar Ham, assuming that our calendar, would allow it to fall on Shabbos. So it's a unique aspect of this fast.
So do you break the fast with dinner, or can you until you make kiddush, or how do you do it?
Great question. So it's actually Machlokes Poskim. We'll see what Rabbi Gelman and Rabbi Engel come out with. I'm sure they'll give instructions next week. I believe it's a Machlokes Poskim whether, like what if you brought in Shabbos early? Could you make kiddush early? I believe that we generally hold that you should bring in Shabbos at the normal time. Don't bring it in early. And then, you break it by making kiddush and eating challah. So that's how you break the fast. I did see a Maisa of the Mishnah Berurah, the Chavetz Chaim, who said that when Aseret B'Tevis falls out on Erev Shabbos, that you shouldn't, don't sing Shalom Aleichem and Eishes Chayil until after Kiddush. Come home from shul, make Kiddush, eat, and then sing, all those things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just so that, you don't have to tarry more and, push it off further.
Nice.
Just one thing about Yom Kippur, the way the calendar is, Yom Kippur can never be on a Friday.
Right. All right, so let's jump into Hanukah. So I heard this vort from that was in the name of Rav David Feinstein, and I thought it's definitely worth sharing. And I thought it really sort of gives us a little bit of an opening to understand another aspect of the holiday of Hanukah. So there's a very esoteric, sort of cryptic, I guess, medrash that is quoted often about Hanukah. And that's where he sort of jumps in on. And he says, so the Midrash Rabbah says, Chashecha zu Yavan. We're talking about darkness, that's Yavan. Shechshicha nehem shel Yisrael b'gzeroseho, because they cast darkness upon Bnei Yisrael, upon the Jewish people with all of their different decrees. Shahaisa omeres Yisrael, kisvu al keren hashor she'ein lachem chelek be'elokei Yisrael. So this is really an interesting thing. So what was one of, we know all of their gezeros. The Rambam talked about it that we mentioned last week, all their gezeros about taxing us and not letting us daven, not letting us learn Torah, etc. Here it's saying that they had this gezerah that we had to write, we didn't scribe on the horn of an ox, that we don't have any chelik in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? That we've no connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what does that mean? I mean, I guess the inscription itself, we have no chelik in that's certainly what they were trying to do by telling us no going into the Beis HaMikdash, no using it, no davening, no learning Torah. Okay, we get that. But what does that have to do with the Keren Ashor? I've seen others explain it in more esoteric ways. So Rav David Feinstein has a very more, I guess, just shot-oriented way of understanding this cryptic medrash. So he brings the Gemara in Shabbos that says, Amar Rabbi Yossi, Miyamai, in all my days, lo karisi liishti ishti, or l'shori shori. I never called my wife, and I never called my ox. What did I call them? Liishti basi, or l'shori sadi. I called my wife my house, and I called my ox my field. So Rashi explains, Ishti Beisi, Shehi Ikar Shel Habayis. Right? She's really the one who builds our house, who really, makes the house into a home, as they say, right? So that's Ishti Beisi. Well, the Shori Sadi, Rashi explains, Shehu Ikar Shel Sode, Dechsiv Rav Tuvos Bekoach Shor. The shore, the ox, is the way that you plow your field. So in an agrarian society, if you're a farmer, if you don't have an ox, you don't have parnasa, right? You have no way of working the land. So your ox is your sada in that it's the way that you can actually make a living. So Rav David Feinstein said, that's really what the Yevanim were saying to us. Why on the horn of the ox, because what they're saying to us is that when we think about how we make a living, we have no chilek in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have no, it's not about bitachon. It's all about, and I bring in the this pasuk from Devarim, right, that Moshe warns us not to do, not to say, but it's, this is what the Yevanim were telling us to do. Kochi v'otzim yadi asa li es achayil hazeh, right? It's my strength, my abilities that has brought upon, my own successes or what I've accomplished. That's what the Yevanim were all about, is what are we able to accomplish? What is man able to do? It's all about, us. And it's not about us being able to say, I make my parnas, I do my shtadlus, but I know in the back of my mind, or hopefully maybe even in the front of my mind, that it really all comes down to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's his explanation of what this medrash is trying to tell us and who the Yevanim were. And I guess again what the essence of Chana might be, which is one of bitachon as well. So I wanted to bring in the Rambam in Mishnah Torah again. We saw this last week, but when you look at it, I think that the Rambam might sort of be alluding to this idea, because he says again, Yavan Gazru Gezeros Yisrael Vitul Dasam Alohi Nichosam Loske Losik Betorah B'Mitzvos Upashta Yad B'Monim of Nosehem V'Nichnasu Lehecha Paratzos V'Timu HaTaharos. Then it says, okay, so that's what the Greeks did. V'Tzar Lehem Yisrael Ma'od Mipneihem V'Lachutz Lachatz Gado Ad. Okay, so let's take a look here. So he says, what changed that? What happened? Ad Sherichem Aleim Elokei Aboseinu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had mercy on us. V'Hoshia Miyadam, and He saved us. V'Hitzilam, and again another way of saying He saved us. V'Gavru B'nei Chashmonai Konim Al Gedolim, and the Chashmonaim. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved us, but the Chashmonaim also sort of rose up and became mighty, right, and fought and killed the Yevanim, and they saved Yisrael Miyadam. It's almost like two different things are going on. And I was thinking maybe that's what the Rambam is trying to tell us, is that on the one end, we have to have Bidachon and Hashem. That's what he says first. But we also have to do our Hishtadlus. If it weren't for the Chashmonaim who stood up and said, you know what, we can't take this anymore, we have to fight. If it weren't for that Hishtadlus, nothing happens. But it's the two together, right? That's what we always have to have at the back of our minds, is that that's what it is. And that's what the Yevanim were trying to tell us, no, it's not. It's all about Kochi v'Otzim Yadi. So that's Rav David Feinstein. So the Beis Halevi, I think, brings this point out when he talks about how he understands the first pasuk in this week's Seder, in this week's parsha. So Vayhi miketz shnasayim yamim uparo cholem. It's a very strange pasuk when you sort of step back and think about it. So the kates of 2 years, the end of 2 years is when it was, and Paro had this dream. It seems odd that what's the timing and what's the cause and the effect. So there's a medrash that says, Amr b'medrash, how did dichsiv kates som lachoshech. This is a quote from Iyuv, so it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu placed or provided the end of darkness. So kates som Yosef kama yihya bebeis asurim kevan shegia hakates uparo cholem. So too, the Medrash says, just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings the end of darkness, he also placed the kates for Yosef being imprisoned. When it arrived, when that end arrived, Paro had his dream. So the Beis Halevi says, Bir divrei hamedrash, de bechol davar sheba'olam yesh siba u'misovev. Right? There's always this, I guess, cause and effect. Hopefully I'm translating it well. Ukamo echad kanaschora achas v'reviach sach gadol bezeh. Right, just like if you find a great business deal, and through that business deal you make a tremendous amount of money. Ulefi seichel anoshi, the way that most people would approach that scenario is a Knias Haschora Haya Hasiba Shnistavi Mizeh Sharviach Sach Mamon. The way we'd approach it is we would say, you came up with this great idea, this great business deal, and out of that, you were able to make a lot of money, right? Pretty basic, pretty fundamental how I think most people look at it. Aval be'emes hu taos. He says that's a mistake. De lo hasiba gorma lo harevach. That's not what caused the, to make that much money. Rak min hashamayim nigzer. There was a gzer from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he should make a lot of money. Alav yarviach. V'al kain, and therefore, nistavev sheyikne scharazu. So therefore, once HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you know what, you're going to make a lot of money, then he creates a situation where you come up with this business deal, and that's where the money comes from. V'nimsa revachu hasiba, and therefore, really, the making of the money is really the reason. Uknias aschora, he hamisovev, and the effect. So the cause is making the money. The effect is coming up with the business deal and putting it into, putting the plan into place. This is how you will come to, right, the desired goal, meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu's desired goal. Right, and so too we would apply the same logic to this pasuk, right? That Paro has his dream, and that is hu hasiba. That is the cause sheyatsa mimenu zehamisovev sheyatsa Yosef mitfisa. That's what allows Yosef to come out of the come out of prison. Ube'emes enokein, but that's actually not true. V'adavar hu lehefech. The ikar hadavar haya shehegia hazman Yosef sheyatsa mebeisa asurim. Really, what happened was it was time for Yosef to come out. 2 years. That was the allotted time, and at the end of 2 years, he needed to come out of prison. Umizen istaviv shecholam paro chalom, and that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you know what, Paro, it's time for you to have your dream. Yitziaser shel Yosef hu hasiba b'chalam Paro hi'emasovev. And that's why it says it was at the end of the allotted time happened at the end of 2 years. And therefore Paro had his dream. That is what caused Paro to have his dream. And that's how we understand the Medrash. That just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings the end or puts the end of the darkness, and therefore Paro had to have his dream just at that night and not 2 nights earlier or 2 weeks later or anything else. So again, giving us another idea of thinking about where where's bitachon sit versus where does the things that we do how does it come about, and what does that cause, what does that affect?
So it's like a means and an end. The end was that Yosef's time was up. He had to get out of prison, and means was the dream. Right.
Exactly. That's the opportunity. Yeah. So again, a nice, maybe a thought for towards the end of Hanukah, but hopefully that was it was something that gives you a little bit of inspiration as well. And so we'll meet again in about 3 weeks, and we'll come up with new topics and new things to go through.